Greetings and welcome to another River Radio Sports Central podcast alongside 103.5 ESPN's Matt Varney. I'm Darren Kinnard, and Matty, we are in that crunch time for the winter sports. Boys wrestling will wrap up this weekend. Girls basketball postseason is underway. Girls bowling postseason wraps up this weekend. Boys basketball starts next week. So it is a busy time in the old IHSA world.
Yeah, you could say that for sure. And I'm only doing boys basketball on the IHSA side. I'm doing some JUCO basketball as well, as people know. But I started this weekend. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a long week, and it has been. And I mean, I got to Wednesday, and usually that's my okay. We're at the other side of the hill. We're gonna go sledding now, and I was like, I could tell we're not gonna go sledding. I'm so happy we're at Friday. We've made it. But man, it was a long week. It was a busy week. But it's been a fun week too.
Yeah, and again, we talk about basketball season in particular because it feels like such a marathon when you're in it, but then at the same point, it's like, wow, we're here at the postseason, and so we talked about the dog days, that time between the midwinter tournaments and now the boys tournaments, the boys postseason starting up. We've just got a couple more regular season games. Some play tonight. Some, very few will play on Saturday because regionals start for many on Monday. So, not a ton on the line still in the regular season, but you have a game that has a lot on the line tonight.
I do. It's probably going to be one of, if not the game of the night, in Carterville hosting Murfreesboro. And I mean, you could speak to this. I've said all season long. I said before the season started that Murfreesboro was the wild card in the Ohio division. They're going to be as good as they want to be, basically. And that is a compliment to them because they can be one of the best in the area, but they also have games sometimes where you're kind of left scratching your head a little bit. But both Carterville and Murfreesboro have had a week off between the last game that they had and tonight. So they're both rested. They both had time to, I think, kind of get that final tune-up in. Hey, let's maybe add these plays add these sets into the playbook. Let's work on this aspect of our game to get better. And then they had plenty of time to go ahead and do some final setups and everything. But I'll tell you what, Carterville's probably going to have just the slight edge in that because I remember last year going over there for the January matchup that they had. Got set up, and Shane Hawkins was still running through walkthrough with his team, whereas Murphy was already on the bench on the bus rather, getting over there. So they'll probably be doing that when I get there. They'll be going through walkthrough still, but it's gonna be a heck of a game. I truly think it's probably gonna go down to the wire, just like it did at Murfreesboro. If it doesn't, that'll be kind of disappointing, I think, for one side or both sides, really. You're signing up, coming for this game for a slobber knocker that goes down to the wire, maybe ends up in the dreaded overtime. I've already said it. Sorry, Steve Webb, Dave McKenzie, John Homan. We're going to overtime. I expect it to be kind of one of those games that goes down as a classic, and since I expect it, it probably won't be.
So what's on the line? Carterville has already clinched a share of the conference title.
Yes.
Murfreesboro can grab a share with a win tonight. Carterville clinches it outright with a victory.
Also important to note that Murfreesboro sitting at 19 wins on the season. Now, they could still go on and win their 20th in the postseason. But Daryl Murphy has told me, and I think I'd have to go back and look. I just haven't bothered to because I trust Daryl Murphy with my life. But he said that I think they've got a 10-year streak of 20 wins or more. That's on the line here tonight in terms of a regular season. And then you're not guaranteed that 20th next week when you face either Harrisburg or Hamilton County. You could get popped and then, you finish with 19 wins. So that's on the line for the Red Devils as well tonight. Kind of a superfluous thing, but it's still kind of a culture thing for them. And so they want to keep that streak going. And, they'd love to get a share of the title, if nothing else, because anyone that gets a share, they don't mention the part that it's a share. They say, we're conference champs, and that's it.
And next week, the boys regionals, the way it's set up, Monday will be the quarterfinals. 1A has quarterfinals in almost top to bottom. One of the few that have a bye is Waltonville, and the Spartans dealing with some injuries, so that actually is a good thing for them. Not that you would think that the 116 is going to be a tough matchup for them in that situation. But just having that rest is a big thing. And then Wednesday will be the semifinals, and then Friday will be the championship games. And so, again, we've talked many times about that being one of my two favorite work days of the year, next Friday. And, of course, by the time we record our next podcast, we'll know the matchups for Regional Final Friday, so that we'll kind of wait and see how the rest of the week plays out before we get too deep into the weeds for the boys postseason. But next week, also Tuesday, Thursday, we have the girls sectionals and regionals going on. We still have a couple regionals to be decided tonight. Most of them were decided last night. Again, we record on Friday morning, so most of them were decided Thursday night, and we had some milestone type situations. Carbondale won its first girls regional in 10 years.
It's big.
And tied the school record for wins in a season with their 23rd. Marion made it back-to-back regional championships, and they also tied the school record for wins with their 24th win. And that's just in the 3A mix right there.
Right. Yeah, there were some really nice wins all across the board. Cesar-Valera, I thought, had a great win at the 1A Cobden Regional. Massac County did a great job of they had a lot of returners this year, so they were kind of expecting, hey, we're going to do some good things, and they sure did, win in a regional title. Benton took care of business at Heron against West Frankfort, their county rival. That's just a couple of them right there that you run through and you're like, man, those were some good games right there. And even those scores sometimes don't dictate that, that was a really good game. Even the ones that kind of got blown out a little bit, you could still kind of tell. There was a little bit of heat right there that made it interesting.
And the Nashville winning at Freeburg was a little closer than I think some people thought, but it was at Freeburg. Yeah. Those two had played early in the season, and Freeburg really worked on controlling the tempo last night. It ended up being a 12-point game. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the sectional pairings that we know of so far. In 1A at the Wayne City sectional, Brownstown St. Elmo, that's a school to the north, is one of the number one seeds from the subsectionals up there. They will get the winner of tonight's Christopher Gallatin County game, which is at the Gallatin County Regional. The other sectional semi is Cesar-Valera-Waltonville against Edwards County, who beat Woodlawn 61-54 last night. And Cesar-Valera-Edwards County, that's a very intriguing matchup there in the semis.
It's very tasty. Lola Nussmeier had 27 points last night. And quite honestly, I know everyone, when it comes to Woodlawn, has been paying attention to the boys' team because they've been fantastic this year. The girls' team, though, has been quietly very good. I think they've been in the kind of the shadow. So Edwards County, obviously, a very good girls program, but still to get the win and to have their star Lola Nussmeier to go off for 27 on a very good Woodlawn team was a big deal to advance to that. And now Cesar-Valera, Edwards County, that is we used the word appetizing a lot last week. That's just one that you're licking your lips at, like, oh boy, that's going to be a good one.
Well, and that's basically the Black Diamond West champ versus the Black Diamond East champ, and both took care of their business, and now they get to face off. Brownstown St. Elmo is someone that folks in the immediate area probably not familiar with. They are ranked in the AP, the final rankings. They're ranked 7th, so they will be a handful for whoever comes out of Gallatin County tonight. So, some of the other 1As, again, and it's kind of weird, weird's probably not the right word, but just our teams are kind of scattered all over the place in the brackets, and it's not like, you can just go to this sectional and find all of the teams, and then you spread it out a little further with the regional matchups, and, they're kind of all over the place.
It's a weird year.
And 1A is not quite as bad as some of the others. 2A, it feels like they're everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
And, and the main one that catches our attention is the Chester sectional. Mm-hmm. The aforementioned Benton Rangerettes, they took care of business last night, beating West Frankfort 49-21. Now they get Breeze Central in the first round of the Chester sectional, the semifinals. That'll be 6 o'clock Tuesday. The second game there will be Nashville and Massac County. Nashville and Bree Central clearly the favorites, but Benton has shown the ability to, to really, score and they've got some great weapons. And Massac County, again, a team that, pulled an upset by seed, beating Vienna on their home floor. And so an interesting sectional to be sure. On paper, it looks like it'll be, Nashville and Bree Central would be the favorites. And but again, as Kenny Mayne would say, they don't play games on paper. They play them in TVs.
Well, and the other thing is I don't trust I do trust Dave Brown to always take care of business one way or another. He's always going to have his team ready to play. And so the Ben Rangerettes will be ready to play against Bree Central, who, again, another team that, and this is not just this year, but it seems like every year, where they're always really good, but they always seem to be just in the shadow of their boys' team. But it's going to be definitely kind of a situation where Ben came in. Last year they struggled, but they were pretty young last year, and they're still kind of young this year. They have a lot of juniors on their team, but they got a couple of seniors that were returning, and then Madeline Roundcount came in as well, and just kind of helped to elevate the team to get to this point. This could be kind of the fork in the road kind of is this program ready to take that next step, or is it maybe going to be a situation where it's going to hurt, but you're going to learn a lot, and your senior year for all those juniors and junior year for the sophomores that are on that team, it'll probably be a big year next year for them one way or another. But are you going to have that stinging situation, that memory that sits in the back of your mind the rest of the year? Is that going to be the situation you have, or are you going to be able to kind of learn while winning, which isn't easy to do, but right. I've seen it happen several times, specifically at the JUCO level, but at the high school level, sometimes the only way you learn is through a loss. And so, but this would be one of those rare instances where they could learn while getting a win, and it would be a big one. And again, it would show that they took that next step as a program. No doubt about that. On the other side, in the Olney-Richland County sectional, it's Paris and Richland County. Those are both 3 seeds from the subsectional. And then you've got Mount Carmel versus T-Town. And what a couple of heavyweights in that second semifinal. 3 of the 4 teams in the Olney sectional from the LIC, so it'll feel like a conference tournament. But then you factor in T-Town, and suddenly and they say, hold on a minute. This is, again, that is a heavyweight sectional semifinal. I mean, like you said, it looks like an LIC tournament right there, but then you throw T-Town in there, and they say, no, we invited you. So that'll be a good one right there. If you're kind of in that neck of the woods, consider going to check out those semifinals, because that just is one that you're not going to see a sectional semifinal setup like that too often. Usually you're going to have, 1 or 2, for sure favorites, and then you'll have 1 or 2 pretenders, and then maybe a team in the middle of somewhere like that. Right there, I look at that, there's no pretenders there. No, that's a pretty good group to be sure. In 3A, we mentioned Carbondale and Marion. Marion won the Centralia Regional, beating the host Annie's 59-47. Carly Midget, 24 points and 15 rebounds. Such a talented sophomore. I mean, she is the quintessential stat sheet stuffer. Yeah, every time that I see her name, she had a lot of points, and then she also did this. And sometimes it's rebounds, sometimes it's dishes. I think one time it was steals. She is fantastic. And you say she's just a sophomore? Uh-oh. Yeah, and she's just athleticism and height and skill, and so she's the total package for Marion. Again, the Lady Wildcats tied the school record for wins. That they will play the second semifinal at Waterloo against Quincy Notre Dame, a team that beat Mount Vernon last year in the Taylorville Super Sectional to make it to state. So tough test awaiting there. The opener, the aforementioned Carbondale Terriers, who are into the sectional for the first time in 10 years. They get a number 1 seed in Chatham Glenwood. That is Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
The Terriers shorthanded.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to win that regional last night against Triad, which was just an absolute slugfest. It was hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of that's 3A, some of it is we're just going to go at it. And I mean, I felt like it was, I was like, isn't the state wrestling in Champaign? I mean, because it feels like that we've got some wrestling going on here. But anyway, Carbondale, Riley McElveen, the talented sophomore, had suffered a knee injury, so she's out. But the Terriers came up with a big effort last night to come up with that regional title. But Glenwood, that's another beast there.
That's a tough draw right there, without a doubt. Carbondale, Coach Hill is always sending us the results, and we appreciate that. Coach, if you're listening, thank you very much. But just every single year she's always sending the results, and we appreciate that. But just this year, just seeing a little bit more wins and everything. The Terriers were kind of a, believe it or not, sneaky 20-win team. Just in the fact of you look up and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, they're right there. They're right there at the top. And yeah, they're a very good club. But like you said, Chatham Glenwood is a tough draw, but they took care of Triad. Why not try to go ahead and do it against Glenwood?
Well, and the interesting thing, that I think that bodes well for Carbondale is just the defensive effort.
Yeah.
Last night, holding Triad to 29, and their guards get good pressure. And then there was no space last night. I mean, it's Carbondale. They held Triad to 11 in the second half, and so it will take that kind of defensive effort to pull off the upset. And again, when I say upset, it's the seed. Glenwood's the top seed out of that subsection.
But we talk a lot about team identities, and I feel like when conversations are had, not just you and I, but when we talk about team identities, a lot of people focus on the offensive side. Sometimes defense is that team identity, and then you go and look at what the final score is for some of these teams in these games, and you get wrapped up in, oh, that was a low-scoring game. They only scored 44, 43 points. Well, that's not their identity. Their identity is, I'm going to wear you down on defense, and then we're going to go down, and we're going to go get the easy layup. And we're okay if it's a low-scoring game. Talking with SIU associate head coach Steve Hawkins a few weeks ago about, when they had Murray State come in, and after they just got done embarrassing Illinois State with, I think, 50 points or something like that. It was a low-scoring game there, but Coach Hawkins was talking about just the fact that, you don't look at how much do we hold another opponent. It's the efficiency when you go down, because every game you're going to have a different amount of possessions, because every game's going to have a slightly different rhythm, different pace, and so sometimes you're going to get up to 60 or sometimes 70 even in a high school game, believe it or not. But that's also because of the rhythm of the game. It's how effective are you when you go down and how well your defense is. And if Carbondale's sitting there saying, you know what, maybe the offense isn't our strongest point, but our defense is something we can hang our hat on, and they're like, we just got to go out and score 38 points, because we know every night out with the pace that we play at and the amount of times that, or how we're going to defend rather, that's realistically the number that we have to reach. That if they have a number in mind of between pace and the way we play defense, that's all you got to know. Now next year with the clock, the shot clock, that'll change a little bit.
It's a little bit of a different story.
But pace will still play a role. Efficiency will still play a role. And so it really comes down to when you look at, because I've seen some people say, man, only 40 points scored in a high school varsity game, both boys and girls. And it's like, well, that doesn't tell the whole tale of the tape. It's how efficient were you coming down the floor. And Carbondale, clearly, their defense is saying, come on down. You're not going to have much luck.
Right, and I think there's an assumption, and we've talked about this before when we were talking about the shot clock. There's an assumption that when the game's in the 30s or the 40s that somebody's holding the ball.
No.
And that's not the case, and it's twofold. One, the defenses are just playing the tails off.
Right.
And two, maybe the offensive skills are not to the level that you can go get a shot, so you're having to run the offense and cycle it through 3 or 4 or 5 times to get a better look or to get a more open shot,
Right.
that type of thing. And so one of the interesting things I think that we all think offensively with the shot clock, naturally, but those really good defensive teams, that plays to their benefit.
It does.
Because now you're going to play defense and they're going to have to force up a shot,
Yep.
Within that 35-second time frame.
Well, and when we talk about elite defenses, not especially at the high school level, not all elite defenses are littered with pickpockets. You know, all you have to do on defense is be a wall. Don't let them get to the bucket, force up a shot they don't want to take, and you're generally happy as a coach. But when most people think of elite defenses, it's, they got to be, getting steal. If they're going to go out and just keep running a set until they get the look they want, not all defenses, not all players are have that trait of being able to steal the ball away. And that's fine because, again, at the high school level, okay, that's fine. Go ahead, keep running your set. We'll just keep doing what we've been doing. We're not going to slip up because that's our identity. We're going to be perfect every time that we're on the defensive end. Right. That's their identity, and it works like a charm for those teams. And if they have a pickpocket, great. But next year, talking about that, about the shot clock, next year they're not going to need a pickpocket because the shot clock will be the pickpocket.
Well, the other part of the equation is that you're making the offense continue to do things, and if they're not efficient, if they're not doing good work offensively, then they're apt to turn it over.
They are.
Or, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a steal or a block shot or something like that.
They'll be their own worst enemy.
But, again, that's because the defense has made life miserable for them for the previous 25 seconds.
And when you run through a set once and you don't get the look you want or something messed up, so, okay, we got to go back, reset, run it again. How many times have we been in a gym and we've heard a coach yell, run it again?
Right.
And just – by the time that you're gone through the second time, now you're getting frustrated. If you have to go through it a third time, the coach is screaming at you, and you're already feeling that pressure. If you're the point guard especially, you're feeling frustrated. If you're the man or woman setting the pick, you're feeling frustrated because how many times do I have to take this body here?
Right.
It gets to a point, and, eventually they're either going to turn it over or they're just going to give up, send up the shot, and that's what good defenses do. They're patient. They don't mind because we're going to play our role perfectly, and then you're going to make a decision you don't like.
And when the offensive team is not good at what they're trying to do, you can't even get a ball reversal, much less run through the set 2 or 3 times. So anyway, that's a year ahead. There's be plenty more to discuss at that point. But again, the defensive principles remain the same. And again, that's a very interesting, as you would expect in the sectional level. Marion and Carbondale both have tough tests, but that's certainly not to say that we couldn't have an All-South 7 final. And
I'll be all for it.
And, wouldn't it be just about right for Marion and Carbondale having to drive to Waterloo to play?
Hopefully, if that were the situation, they'd be able to make a deal out. But
you would think. I
don't know where you would go then. Do you go in the middle and go to Carterville? Do you try to convince someone to let you play in their gym? Because there's no way one AD is going to be like, yeah, come on over here. That's fine. No, they're both going to say, no, you come to me.
Yeah, there won't be a home game, that's for sure. So, boys wrestling is at the state tournament this week in Champaign. And the way the setup goes on day 1, if you win your first match, there are 16 wrestlers in each weight class. If you win your first match, you come back in the evening in the quarterfinals. And if you go 2-0, you're into the semifinals Friday night. If you lose in either of the matches, then you're into the wrestlebacks today. And it was a pretty tough day for our local wrestlers yesterday. The only one from the immediate area to win twice was Murfreesboro's Julian Tanner. He will wrestle in the heavyweight semifinals tonight. And we have several that are in the wrestlebacks. We had Braxton Tittle from Benton, Drevin Bramlett from Murfreesboro, Logan Tanner from Murfreesboro. Those guys all went 1-1, so they are in the second round of wrestlebacks to start the day. And in two-way, we also had Marion's Evan Francis go 1-1. So he is in that second round of wrestlebacks. Everybody else, if you lost your opening match, you're immediately into that consolation bracket.
Yep.
You can still finish as high as third.
Yeah, which is pretty great.
Which is interesting the way wrestling does it, because even the guys that make the semifinals, well, you think, well, if you lose the semifinals, then I'll be wrestling in the third place match. Well, no, that's not the way it works.
No.
You get dumped back into the wrestlebacks, and you have to win one more match.
Yeah.
To get to that third place.
You gotta work your way back.
If you make the semifinals, you're guaranteed at least to wrestle in the 5th, 6th place. So you're guaranteed a medal. It's just a matter of which one it is. And so
it's a little funky.
Yeah, it's again, kind of my bracket brain doesn't really absorb that well.
I do get it, though, because especially in an individual sport, there could be someone that is overperforming or has a bad first match or whatever. And so to be in that championship match, basically you got to be perfect. That's your reward. Okay. Yeah. But if you falter at any point, then you end up, having to find your way back somehow. Right. But again, if you're also in a situation where, oh man, he's having the best day, the best meet of his career, well, that could be adrenaline and a lot of other things. So they kind of factor that in for margin of error a little bit and say, yeah, this kid might be doing really well, goes off on a 3-4 match win streak and then falters. And, okay, well, we got to take into account maybe he was just doing really good. Let's see if he finds his way back or if, that was a fluke, and he's now on a losing streak.
Well, and the other part is that you also have you've got the top 4 places from 4 different sectionals, and then, you sometimes this sectional's more,
exactly,
is better maybe than the other, maybe a little deeper, whatever, and so, having to come back through that kind of makes up for some of it that the cream will usually rise to the top. And again, wrestling's one of those sports where there's, you don't see the 16 seed.
Not often.
All of a sudden catching fire and doing some things.
If you won't see the 16 seed catch fire, but you might catch them on, they had just a really good, they might have a really good match against the 1 seed.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why they set it up the way they do, because, okay, great, you did a great job against that. Now, how much is your hot streak going to lead you? If they go on a hot streak and they end up in the finals, well, then maybe they just weren't to their full potential, and then the cream rose to the top because they met up against people and they evolved in the moment. You don't see those kind of people are rare, but they do exist where you put them under a bunch of pressure and they immediately evolve, and that's a magical thing to be able to witness. But yeah, usually you're gonna see the 16 seed falter against the 1, but in the case that they do, they give that 1 seed an opportunity that, okay, you weren't perfect here, so you can't get the 1 or the 2 spot, but you could get the 3 if you play to your potential.
Right, and that's different from other brackets where if you're in a 16-team field and you lose that opener, the best you can get is 9th. Yeah, and that's so this they
unless
still
you're from Chicagoland, and then you get to go into the CPS playoff field, and
that's a whole other issue. Now the girls' state wrestling will be next weekend. That's in Bloomington, and then we mentioned the girls' bowling will wrap up this weekend, starting today with the opening round in Rockford. We did not have any area teams that made it. 2 individuals, Sydney Nelson from Heron and Briley Dent from Mount Vernon, will both be competing at the state tournament. And again, we talked about it with the boys. You have the first day, and then they take the top 12 out of the 24. Basically, they cut the field in half. And so, you want to try to make the cut so you can participate in that final day. Yeah,
I mean, that's the big thing. Just survive and advance. We saw, who was it the other week that finished 12th on the day or 11th on the day?
Well, Mount Vernon was 12th going into the final day, and then they ended up 3rd.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at. Just we just saw it the last 2 weeks ago, where it was just survive and advance, and if you make it to the final day, you're going to need a little bit of luck, but you could see yourself rise quickly up the ranks.
And that is the way it goes.
Yes, sir.
And that is going to do it for us for this edition of the River Radio Sports Central podcast. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, or whenever you want to watch, listen, however you consume it. That's up to you.
Yeah.
We just put it out there for you. For Matty V, I'm Darren Kinnard. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you again next week.